We've got this very large Quercus lobata, the valley oak, that we have to do some pruning work on. But before we do the pruning work, we want to inspect all the cables in the tree. So some of the decisions I have to make are obviously going to be based upon weight reduction over the church here. And what I'm looking for are areas of tight trunk and bark inclusions where the crotches merge. And there's a pretty obvious one right here. So this limb out this way is a potential hazard. Another thing that I'm looking for when I make my evaluations are old wounds. There's a lot of old wounds on this tree, and if you find wounds that have decay pockets in them or areas of weakness associated with the old wounds, then you have to make some decisions about how much weight needs to come off to keep the tree reasonably safe. Now there's a significant old wound. That's about 3 feet by 3.5 feet, and it is quite old. I'm going to guess that that cut was probably made 35 or 40 years ago. There appears to be 4 cables in this tree. Down low in here, there's one that goes from this side all the way over here. That is a very old cable. And about 6 feet above it, there is a replacement cable to back that one up. And that one goes off to this side of the tree in here. And then there's 2 cables that come from in here over to this side, and they seem to be newer cables. The one up on this side right here is a through bolt that goes all the way through the tree, and the cables themselves are swedged. I don't see swedges on cables very often, and they may be plenty strong. I am not sure of the strength of a swedge. So there's 2 cables on this side supporting this major limb, and there are 2 cables coming from here and over there that are presumably supporting that mass, which is extreme. If you look at this area right here, there was a very large limb, probably 24 inches in diameter, removed, I'm going to guess at the same time that the large wound at the base of the tree was done. And it appears that the tree has healed. Now it's very important to recognize that trees do not heal. What they do is they encapsulate the wound. So they grow around it, and the term that we use is compartmentalization. So they grow up around the wound, and sometimes the wound will slow down, sometimes it will continue to decay on the inside. So a wound that is completely closed up like this does not necessarily mean that it's healed or that things are okay inside. The swelling that is associated with this limb has me a little bit concerned. There appears to be somewhat of a fissure underneath, and it goes from a wide spot to a narrow spot to a real wide spot and then grows up. So that's something I want to take a little bit closer look at. It doesn't surprise me that it's larger in this area, because it's going to build up some tissue to help support the weight of that massive big limb up there. But if there's any long-term decay associated with this area here, or one of these areas down here that might be in this part of the tree, that could be associated with an internal weakness. I see there was a fairly large limb removed up here. Now this might be kind of hard to see, but right up here there's a hole that you can see, and it's hollow. And right above that is one of those through bolts for one of the cables that is attached for that part of the tree. So my concern is with that hollowing that's going on right there and the close proximity to the through bolt, that the tissue that's supporting that may be compromised. There may be some decay in there, and I'd like to look at that hole and see what it looks like. Now there's a very large limb that's rotted at the end here, and it goes down to the trunk. The end is dying back, but there's still a little bit of active tissue in here, I'm questioning whether we should take that off all the way down to the trunk and leave a very large cut down here, or just stub this back and hope that it suckers out in that area. It would be a much smaller wound out here than back here, and this would be very visible. So I think I'm going to make the decision just to cut that back a few feet and hope for the best, rather than make a very large wound down here. I try to avoid large wounds whenever possible, and at some point we may have to do that, but as long as there's any life at all on this stubbed off, rotted thing here, if we can get it back to some reasonably sound wood, I'd say let's leave it. There's also a void right here at this main crotch, and it's kind of hard to see here, it's pretty dark, but at the top of this really old wound, which looks like it was a flesh cut from a long time ago, you can see there's an opening in there, possibly squirrels or somebody's gotten in there, but if it's compromised, then that may be a significant weakness. This is the cavity, the first cavity after this large wound right here. I'd say this cavity goes in about 12 inches right here, 6 inches here, another 8 inches or so in here. So this area of the tree is somewhat compromised. The wood is reasonably hard. That doesn't mean that it's sound. And further up on the same limb, we've got this cavity here. It goes in quite a ways down in through here. You can see that I'm saying it's going in probably 18 inches or so. And this is in close proximity to this through rod right here. My concern was that if this decay in here extends up into this area right here, that this may no longer be strong. So I want to check the tension on this cable too. I'm going to go around the other side. Alright, I'm checking the upper cable. These are held together with swedges, which, like I said, I'm not sure about swedges. I don't have enough experience with them. This is a very, very high strength cable. It's not a standard cabling type of a cable. This is more like an aircraft quality cable, so it is much stronger, but there's an incredible amount of strain on here. I mean, this is incredibly taut, and I'm imagining that one down there is as well. So there is a lot of strain on both of these cables. So let me go check that one again. And this one is a through rod, and I believe that one down there is as well. So considering this is over the church, I think we need to do some pretty good weight reduction on this side of the tree. Now I'm looking at this other cable, and it is unbelievably tight. So we've got both of these cables, which are both through rods, and it comes over to this side, which is a through rod. And there's the old cable. That's the conventional style back splice cable, and that's really, really old. So over on that side, I see 1, 2, 3, 4 cables all together. So that side of the tree is being supported in 2 different directions, which is pretty good. The thing I don't like about this is the amount of strain that's on these cables. This tree has become so dependent upon these cables that one failure, if those swedges go, or if the cable snaps, or whatever should happen, then this side of the tree would suddenly relax, causing potential failure. And we've also got an incredible amount of tension on this really old cable here. And I'm imagining, I can't reach that one easily because the cables are in the way, but from what I can see, it looks like it's equally taut.
There's almost no deflection on this whatsoever.
Okay, now we have all that information. What do we do with it? Trying to decide how much weight that you need to take off of a significant tree like this is very, very difficult. The first thing I would do would make some what seems like obvious decisions and get enough weight off, but then go back and check on the cables. If you take off, say, 1,500 pounds off of each of these large areas and go back and you give a tug on those cables, you can physically sense that they've loosened up, then you can feel pretty good about the fact that you've lightened the load. If you take that much weight off the tree, you go right back to the cables and they're still very, very taut, that's a whole nother story. And even with all the weight reduction, it may not loosen up. So it's a difficult decision all the way around. Some of it's an educated guess, some of it is trial and error. But there is a line you don't want to cross, because the last thing you want to do is screw up the tree and take too much. So that's the best advice I can give you on this. It's kind of a get up there and start working and see how it progresses. So once again, my name is Blair Glenn. I'm the owner of Saratoga Tree Service. Thanks for taking the time to view this presentation.